Hello and welcome to the Staten Island Morning Show. Today is Tuesday, January 17th. I'm Cara DeFalco.
And I'm Don Smith. We're glad you could join us this morning.
Starting off, it is going to be, we're going to check the weather, and it's going to be a cold start on this Tuesday morning with temperatures in the 30s. So make sure you bundle up as you head out the door, even though temperatures will be on the chilly side this afternoon into the mid 40s. That is still a few degrees above normal for this time of year. Taking a look at the forecast across the island, expect a high of 46 in Tottenville, Woodrow, and Todd Hill. The New Dordt section will get up to 45 degrees with a high of 47 degrees expected in Bull's Head. Sky conditions will be mainly cloudy with the chance for an afternoon shower. Stick around for a look at what's expected for the rest of the week coming up in a little bit.
And it's still not too bad. I mean, it's January and it was like 50 degrees.
It's been very comfortable, and I'm still convinced that it's gonna be March, and all of a sudden we're gonna get like a foot of snow. It's gonna happen.
Oh, they don't want to see that March snow. It sounds like wet cement.
Yeah, exactly. All right, heading into our headlines, developers have withdrawn a controversial plan to build a lithium-ion battery storage facility on Staten Island.
The plan drew criticism from residents and local officials who cited concerns about possible fire hazards and exposure to dangerous chemicals. Had the plan gone through, the facility would have been located near 6 schools and a church. Yeah, that's probably not the best.
Probably not the best location
in this world today. That's probably not the best location to put a lithium battery storage place.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, the MTA is cracking down on toll evaders on the Verrazano Bridge. 17 cars were impounded in the crackdown in response to a total of $400,000 in unpaid tolls and fines. The move set a new record for the MTA for most cars impounded in a single day. Last week, 29 different cars were impounded across the 5 boroughs with a total of $500,000 in outstanding tolls and fines. People are just looking for every which way to try to just cheat those tolls.
Understandably so. I mean, $16, $18 a pop in one direction. Yeah. I mean, I do understand it. At the same time, it's like, just, at this point, there's cameras everywhere. They're doing the toll by plates.
Exactly.
I mean, they're going to get you. They're going to find you.
Right.
And it's certainly not more expensive than having your car impounded.
Well, this is true too, right? It's going to cost you probably 10 times more than what it would if you just paid the toll.
Exactly.
And like you said, there's cameras everywhere and there's digital footprints of everything. It's not like it was 25, 30 years ago. My father was going across Staten Island. He had to hand a ticket to the toll taker and the whole thing.
Right.
And even covering license plates and things like that.
Even in like the early days of Easy Pass, where like you could just like throw something over your license plate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not going to work anymore.
They're going to find you.
Yes,
no matter what it is. They have stuff everywhere. You will be found.
Yeah, exactly. So Governor Hochul's administration is considering a new proposal that would legalize basement apartments in New York City. So the plan, which was outlined in the governor's State of the State book, would allow city officials to bring basement apartments into the city's housing market. The idea is part of a wider push to address a growing housing shortage in the 5 boroughs. And I know that this has been something that's kind of been battered around for a while.
Yeah.
I think I remember a couple of big storms that we had where it really became a problem because those basement apartments flood.
Exactly.
And folks either got really hurt or were killed.
I think there was a few that drowned.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where, maybe if it's legalized, they'll put in the safety precautions needed to help prevent that.
Right.
But New York City's got a lot of old buildings in it. I don't know how you would retrofit something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That.
Right. And, there's so many other apartments, across Staten Island that are split into like 2 or 3 apartments when they probably shouldn't be really. So maybe having, like you said, this regulation from the state would help in that capacity, and especially with those basement, maybe somehow figure out, I don't know, like how to get the drainage better in some capacity, or have some sort of a way that people can get out or something.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at least it's on the state's radar. But, these basement apartments, maybe they would have some sort of a database of where they are too. Would be
right. Exactly. At a minimum, be able to track and find
exactly.
So that there's somebody there.
Right. That if something did happen, they would know that somebody is living there, or it's at least they know it's a basement apartment and not just a storage area of some type.
Exactly.
We'll see how that plays out. Well, the Maple Tap Fest is an event at the Clay Pit Ponds State Park that will teach volunteers how to tap maple trees.
I think this is so cool. So joining us now to tell us more is environmental educator Annie Smigelski. Annie, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Sure, our pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Let's talk to you about this Maple Tap Fest. What inspired the park to start it?
Annie, can you hear us?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we have. I don't think Annie can hear us.
See if we can reconnect with her after the
Yeah.
break. Exactly. Well, speaking of the break, coming up, what a new report says about the city's congestion pricing and who they say it'll impact the most.
Plus, more on how Meals on Wheels Staten Island is helping those in need.
And you can always find us on social media. Search for the Staten Island Morning Show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and click follow.
Nothing mysterious there. These are captions. Open captions are the on-screen display of a movie's dialogue, speakers' names, and sounds. Theaters in New York City are now required to show some of their movies with open captions. To learn more, visit nyc.gov/captions.
This is the place. Hey! Yo! This is my grandson, Mike. It's his 18th birthday.
Man.
Wow! One of the best years of my life.
Well, when I was 18, the ladies used to think I was fine.
Yeah, your grandma, maybe. Oh!
Come on, man.
He's a smart guy, but I thought he could use a little advice today. Start putting away some money.
Call your mother.
And now that you're 18, you need to sign up with the Selective Service System.
Remember Jamie Thomas?
Yeah.
Heard he didn't register and was denied a job with TSA.
There you go.
That's it. Save money, call mom, and register with SSS.
Well, one other thing. Get yourself some better kicks.
Ugliest shoes I've ever seen.
Be the man. Register with the Selective Service System today at sss.gov.
And them socks, my God.
The Maple Tap Fest is an event at the Clay Pit Ponds State Park, and then we'll teach volunteers how to tap maple trees. Very interesting.
Yeah, so we've got Annie Smigelski, an environmental educator, and hopefully she can hear us this time. Hey, Annie, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I can hear you guys.
Great.
Okay,
yes.
perfect.
Welcome back. Thanks. So let's talk to you, Annie, about this Maple Tap Fest. What inspired the park to start it?
So it's basically just to get the community coming together and learning about that this is something that's possible to happen here on Staten Island, learning about the process of from basically tap to table, making the sap to the maple syrup. And it's just about getting the public excited about being out in nature.
That's amazing because you definitely don't think of Staten Island as a place where you could get
Oh, yeah,
or make
exactly.
maple
Right, yeah.
syrup. So what is involved in? I'm completely fascinated by this. What's involved in tapping maple trees? What do you need to do?
So basically so to tap a maple tree, we first start by drilling a hole a certain depth into the tree to be able to reach the sap. We then install this thing called a spile, and the buckets will hang on that. And the sap will collect as it drips down the spile into the buckets. And over time, the sap collects. And then we bring those buckets back to the nature center, boiling the sap down to then make the maple syrup process.
Wonderful. Very nice. Maple syrup is almost like it's like a commodity, very much like,
Yes.
vanilla. It's the vanilla extract is very expensive. The sap, is it used for anything else besides just for maple syrup? Do you use it for other uses?
No, at the moment, we just use it for making the maple syrup and doing the programs. You'll be able to learn more about the process that we make the maple syrup from and even be able to taste it during our public maple syrup programs that we have every Saturday afternoon after our initial Tap Fest.
Awesome. See, and that was going to be my next question. Is the maple syrup available for purchase or for consumption?
Not for purchase, but definitely for consumption. If you're coming to the events and you're able to taste some of the stuff that we might have had made last year or the new stuff that we're going to be making this season.
I mean, really, it's just an interesting event. Again, like you said, you're not thinking Staten Island for maple trees and tapping maple syrup, right? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So Annie, where can people find more information about the event?
Well, Also, besides our maple syrup season, we have a bunch of other events. You can find these events on Eventbrite. You'll be able to learn more about them there, register for them there. You can follow us on Facebook, where we post about things. We post about also on Instagram. We also, you can keep an eye out for our March through May newsletter, which is going to include more spring events, like some upcoming bird walks, our yearly egg hunt that we have, and upcoming Earth Day celebrations. So we got a bunch of places to find more information.
Those all sound amazing. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Have
thanks,
a great
Annie.
week. All right, let's get a check of that weather, because if you are heading outside to tap some maple trees,
Yeah, exactly.
you're going to want to bundle up. You might have to have an umbrella in the event of a passing shower. However, it won't be nearly as wet as Thursday is expected to be. If you're looking for good news in the forecast, we still don't have any shots of Arctic air coming our way in the near future. Taking a look at the outlook over the next 6 to 10 days, there's a 60 to 70% chance of temperatures averaging above normal. You'll see that reflected in our 7-day forecast coming up a little later in the show. Don, what's things looking like on the roads out
Well,
there?
it's getting a little busy on the Staten Island Expressway, and we'll go to the maps here this morning. And, a lot of this is really just, Carrie, going through this long-term construction out through Richmond Avenue. That's really going to be the slowest spot here, especially coming off the northbound side of the West Shore Expressway. But again, not terrible. It's normally for the midday, and a lot of folks, I think, are actually stopping to take a look to see what they're doing because they're out there working. Same thing on the westbound side. But the West Shore Expressway, that is moving fine here. Outer Ridge Crossing, that all looks good. Korean War Veterans Parkway, are also moving nicely. So is 440 getting on over towards Bayonne. Now, the Verrazano, different story, though, friends. A lot of congestion getting onto the eastbound side of the belt, but that's kind of normal stuff as you get out towards Bay 8th Street there and towards Bath Beach, and then it kind of opens up once you get out towards Cropsey Avenue. Inbound Gowanus, still a mess here through Fort Hamilton Parkway, across the elevated section through Industry City, and then again across the top of the world on into the BQE. And that's just that normal construction getting on up into the Brooklyn Bridge. So all in all, pretty decent ride. And then once you clear here on the belt, Flatbush Avenue, everything is good out to Kennedy. I know a lot of our friends at Staten Island may be heading out for a flight at Kennedy Airport. Let's check the MTA. Some delays in the 1A and the Q, but nothing really any kind of delays at all for the Staten Island Railway. So that is some good news. So all in all, not too bad of a ride here for the mid-morning.
Looking good. So, borough officials met with Victory Boulevard merchants to discuss public safety concerns in the neighborhood. The NYPD Staten Island Economic Development Corporation, Councilman David Carr, and District Attorney Michael McCone all attended the meeting. McCone used the meeting to update the merchants on efforts being taken to address current public safety issues.
Well, Kara, a new report is criticizing the MTA's proposed congestion pricing plan, arguing that it would disproportionately affect minorities. Now, the report comes from the Black Institute, and it estimates congestion pricing could lead to a 22% drop in for-hire car trips, which could lead to job losses for thousands of drivers. The report adds that a majority of the drivers at risk are people of color. The authors of the study acknowledge the city's ongoing congestion problems, but call for the MTA to find a more equitable plan. This congestion pricing is just, it is such a hot button issue.
It's, yeah.
And there's just so many different sides to it. And it's just, I don't know what the meeting in the middle of all of this is. I'm not quite sure.
I'm not quite sure what it is either, but it's definitely not. The plan as it is clearly not working for
clearly
a
not
great
working.
number of people.
Exactly. For those in New Jersey who seem like they're going to pick up the brunt of this, those coming in from Queens and even from Staten Island, coming through Brooklyn, going through the Battery Tunnel. How are they going to work out the tolls at the Battery Tunnel? And obviously there's no tolls at the, lower East River crossings, but it just seems that, it's like, and they also, the other big thing is that how many people are driving who never take, let's say, the MTA, the subway.
Right.
And they're being asked to foot the bill to fix the subways, or to fund the MTA.
To fund it, yeah.
It seems a little weird.
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
it's not a great plan, and I don't necessarily have a better one.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
right. So I'm not sure, but I guess time will tell.
Time will
right?
tell.
Exactly. That's right. All right. So Meals on Wheels of Staten Island provides free meals to those in need across Staten Island. Joining us now to tell us more is Joe Tornello, the CEO of Meals on Wheels Staten Island. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your program.
Our pleasure, Jill. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about a typical day for the organization. What does that look like for you folks?
A typical day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. The chef is in early, along with senior staff, ready to receive raw food product, milk, bread, etc. Kitchen staff are in at 5, starting to cook our hot meal. While the hot meal is cooking, they're preparing a second meal that we send out, a chilled meal. We ensure that 2 meals go out every day to our meal recipients. Our drivers come in at 8, start getting their trucks ready, our hot shot trucks. Those trucks are equipped with refrigeration on one end, and also warmers to preserve the temperature of the cold food and the hot food while it's being delivered, along with the office staff who are handling all the phone traffic that goes on from recipients and volunteers and new referrals. And so it's and I like to say that we're sending out right now we're serving over 1,200 people a day. So each person getting 2 meals is 2,400 meals leaving here.
Wow.
After our trucks leave, our volunteers start coming in. 5 of our trucks go out to remote sites to meet volunteers across the borough. Two trucks go out to the South Shore, all the way out to Pleasant Plains, where volunteers that deliver to people from Tottenville to Great Hills pick up meals. So all that is coordinated. And then if you come by at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it looks like the kitchen's all been cleaned up, ready for the next day. Looks like nothing happened. But meanwhile, we've gotten at 2,400 meals.
Wow. That is incredible. So, Joe, you mentioned the chef, the drivers, the volunteers. What goes into making all of this possible?
Well, first of all, we are primarily funded by the Department for the Aging. So what makes it possible, and the meals you're showing are not necessarily ours, I see, but in any case, we're primarily funded. Each meal needs to meet the 1/3 recommended dietary allowance. We also are encouraged to increase plant-based protein meals, a variety of meals, so that we're sending out healthy nutrition. Our chef needs to create 6-week menu cycles that are approved by the nutritionists at the Department for the Aging, so that just to ensure that we're sending out health. We're not just sending out meals, we're sending out healthy nutrition.
Right.
Healthy food keeps people healthier. So that's what goes into. We get wonderful support from our electeds, our local foundations, from the business community, and from the community at large to help fund what we're doing. And we look for that funding because we've maintained a commitment to never have a waiting list. We serve everyone in need. Our funding from the city is limited to a certain number of meals that we know we're going to get funded for, but our fundraising and the extra support we get from the Department for the Aging enables us to maintain that standard. Never have a waiting list, serve everyone who is in need.
That is incredible. And I love that you talked about, making sure that folks are not just getting calories, but they're getting nutrition, because that really is critical, and especially when you're someone who's in need and perhaps whatever food you're providing for yourself is not necessarily of the highest quality, having somebody to be able to bring that to you and make sure that you are getting that nutrition, that's critical. And
it's the right nutrition, by the way. We have 2 registered nurses on staff who are involved in every intake. They assess if the person has any special dietary requirements. We have a number of recipients who are on a renal diet because of kidney disease, or maybe in dialysis, people with food allergies. Also, what's not fully understood or appreciated is the fact that there are dental and swallowing challenges in aging.
Absolutely.
So we have a number of people who need a chopped meal, puree meals. And diverticulosis impacts on some of the meals we send out. So it's not just sending out food; it's the right food to help keep people healthy. We have staff that maintain that contact. Whenever I talk though about the meals we deliver, there's another aspect of it that's just as important as the food, and that is that recipient, that 85-year-old widow who lives alone, sees somebody every day, somebody, whether it's one of our staff deliverers or one of our volunteers, that recipient knows somebody knows me, somebody sees me every day, somebody cares about how I am. It's not unusual for us to pick up on a change in the person's status. They may not look well or may not answer the door. We've saved lives when something maybe has happened and the person doesn't answer the door. We follow up with a phone call. If nobody answers the phone, we follow up with emergency contacts, maybe an adult child, and intervene. And we have found people in crisis. The basic standard is that people have to be over age 60 and unable to cook or shop for themselves, unable to cook or shop independently. Our average age is in the low 80s. I'm trying to throw in a lot of information here. We just finished our 50th anniversary. We opened in 1972, happened to coincide with the federal funding for nutrition programs nationally out of the Older Americans Act. So very proud of the 50 years that we've served our community. Just there's so many parts of what we do that we're very proud of. I work with the College Staten Island Nursing Program. They have students working on their getting their bachelor's degree, registered nurses, elementary schools, high schools, scouting groups who send in things for us to bring to our recipients, the business community, Chamber of Commerce, etc. Our aging network. We're also a member of the Community Organizations Against Disaster, our Staten Island COAD, which is part of the Not-for-Profit Association, Staten Island Not-for-Profit, where we've worked together post-Sandy and during COVID to ensure that we're protective of the people we serve and as well as our staff. And it's and for me an honor to work with the staff we have, our staff in the kitchen, our staff drivers, our wonderful volunteers, just wonderful people who came through during these past 3 years to ensure that we delivered meals every day throughout this time. If I can throw in a piece here, we're always looking for more volunteers. Every volunteer, we have 46 volunteer routes, and every route has a volunteer for each day of the week. That's what makes it work. If you're 75 years old and you're active and you're driving and you commit 1 day a week. I love to cite my brother as an example, who's 76, and he picks up his meals on Friday morning for his area in Westerly where he delivers. Meanwhile, he may go to play golf on Monday and Wednesday, but Friday morning he's here to pick up those meals. So each route has 5 volunteers. That's what makes it do. And our volunteers are just absolutely wonderful. And often retired older adults who are active and want to serve our community.
Yeah, and then with the volunteers too, I'm sure there's a lot of satisfaction in giving back to your community, helping out those in need. And it certainly sounds like you couldn't do this without the volunteers at all. I mean, it's such a major undertaking, in so many different roles between the food and almost like wellness checks for a lot of folks.
The relationships that develop, that's just it's subtle, but knowing that somebody sees me every day and cares about how I am and how I look and is there in case I need an intervention. Absolutely. I like to say my argument with a volunteer is I say to a volunteer, and this happens often, by the way, thank you so much for what you do. And the volunteer will answer, no, I thank you more for letting me do this. And then I say, no, I thank you more. It's not really an argument, but it's really it illustrates what volunteers, and we have wonderful people in our community. Yeah. Several hundred volunteers and looking for more. I should throw in, I'm not sure how much time we have, but we have a fundraiser coming up in April. The first time we're doing a country music dance. The board, the events committee tried to do something different and looking even for a younger audience that may be interested. I'm told that younger audiences may be interested in country music. We have Jessica Rose, who was a Staten Islander, biggie in country music, who went pretty far up the ladder in American Idol. And she's going to be singing for us and teaching us some line dancing that night and in April at the Vanderbilt, April 20th. So keep your eyes open for that notice coming out.
Absolutely. Joe, where can folks go to sign up to volunteer if they are in need, if they need to sign up for meals, or if they'd like to contribute to the fundraiser in April?
Great. Our Facebook, Meals on Wheels of Staten Island. And when you open it up, there are 3 sections you can open. One is I want to volunteer. One is I need meals. And the third is I'd like to contribute. I'd like to donate. And just click on one of those sites and see some pictures about what we do and how we work. And that'd be a great way. Also, our website and our Facebook, we're out there.
Incredible. Joe Tornello, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time and all the work you do.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks, Joe. Great job. All right. So coming up, the latest on the supplemental SNAP benefits going out to eligible Staten Islanders.
Appropriate. Please look at where the Amazon Warehouse Union efforts stand.
And you can always find us on social media. Search for the Staten Island Morning Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and click follow.
As an Olympic athlete, I prepare for everything. So when I became pregnant, I thought I was ready. But at 32 weeks, I was diagnosed with severe preeclampsia and had an emergency C-section. Looking back, Had I known the warning signs, I would have talked to my doctor sooner. Too many women die of pregnancy-related complications, and most are preventable. If you or someone you know is pregnant or recently had a baby, learn the warning signs. It could help save her life. Hear her.
Travel is part of the American way of life.
When we're on vacation, we keep an eye out for anything that looks out of place.
Miss your bag.
When we travel from city to city, we pay attention to our surroundings.
Everyone plays a role in keeping our community safe.
Whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Welcome back to the Staten Island Morning Show. Let's check that weather forecast for you. And you're going to want to grab the jacket, scarf, and hat and put on the seat warmer in the car this morning. I refuse to buy a car that does not have heated seats anymore.
Oh, totally right.
It's mandatory. Temperatures starting out in the 30s across the area, but we'll see highs get into the mid-40s by this afternoon. There's also the chance for a passing shower, and it will get even milder for Wednesday with temperatures into the low 50s, but it's not going to last for the rest of the week. Thursday becomes chilly and rainy with temperatures in the low to mid-40s, and then we remain in the 40s through the end of the week as we dry out on Friday. And could the weekend feature another rain threat? Stay tuned for that weekend outlook and full 7-day forecast in our next weather update. And Don has another look at the roads for us.
But isn't it insane? 50 degrees in January?
I can't.
I mean, there's been no measurable snow that I know of, at least here on Staten Island.
I was sitting outside on my porch, drinking my coffee this morning, going, God, this is lovely, and thinking, we are so going to pay for this later.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It is coming. I am not convinced that we are like passing the rest of the season.
So what's your prediction?
Way.
What are you looking at? What kind of date are you looking at?
I'm thinking March, like
like right before St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, something
That's
like
usually
that. Just
kicks in right
all
there.
of a sudden, it's going to drop.
Right.
We're going to get like one of the what is it called? Like a polar vortex.
Oh,
or
right.
something
Yes.
drop
Yes.
in,
Right.
And just that's
bombogenesis.
That's the one. That's the one.
It's a bomb off the side of the coast or whatever, and just dumps us with snow.
Exactly.
Let's cross our fingers. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Because usually that stuff is like you said, is like wet cement. I mean, because it's so moisture laden, and it's
Absolutely.
not. If you wanted the snow, you want to happen in February where it's like powder.
Light and fluffy.
It's
Exactly.
dust, and you use the leaf blower instead of your back.
You would think, but it's
Exactly.
nice weather, which means the roads are in good shape. For the most
That
part.
it is. That's right. So let's get you over to the maps here this morning. We'll start it off here on the Staten Island Expressway. Let me just zoom in just a little bit for us. Still some delays going eastbound. That's going through the long-term construction here over at Richmond Avenue. That's with that bridge replacement that's been going on here for the last couple of months. So that's still a little bit of a delay, especially if you're coming off the northbound West Shore Expressway. But if you're using the Goethals Bridge back to Linden, maybe doing some shopping here along 19 out by Aviation Plaza, or heading into Elizabeth, things are looking good. Or maybe heading over towards Newark Liberty, we're fine there as well along the Turnpike. As we come down to the South Shore, also in good shape here on the West Shore Expressway, Outer Ridge. Heading on over to Perth Amboy, Woodbridge, again, maybe doing some shopping, saving the sales tax on clothing there at Menlo Park or Woodbridge Center. We're moving along nicely. Again, everything is quiet here along Highland Boulevard through the traffic lights. Korean War Veterans Parkway is good. The expressway is fine all the way out until you get to the Verrazano. That's where some delays are ensuing here, getting off for the Belt Parkway. It looks like we may have some road work setting up eastbound on the Belt out by Bay 8th Street. Let me quickly show you the Bayonne Bridge. That's fine into Bayonne, so that is moving along very well. Let me bring up the traffic camera here very quickly at Bay 8th Street. Let's see if we can see anything. Unfortunately, I do not, other than the slow traffic. So I think it's just east of that pedestrian walkway there, heading out towards Bay Parkway. That's probably more than likely where that road work is set up. Inbound Gowanus is still a mess here. Fort Hamilton Parkway through Industry City, across the top of the world into BQE, out to the Brooklyn Bridge. Kind of the normal drill there, friends. Really not seeing, there's no incidents per se, but just a lot of heavy traffic. And if you're making your way out on the Belt, going to Kennedy, we're fine all the way through Mill Basin, getting out to the Powdergate Basin Bridge into Rockaway Parkway, and then eventually out to Cross Bay Boulevard into Kennedy. That is going to be looking good. Let's dial in the MTA, the subways, some delays in the A and the M and the 5 train, local express, but really nothing being reported here for, boarding change now on the Staten Island Railway from Eltingville to Huguenot, board at the St. George bound platform. So watch for that until about 3 o'clock. So that's a look at what's going on around wonderful Staten Island and into at least 3 of the other boroughs. So we left the Bronx out, but if you're going to the Bronx, it's still going to be a little bit slow.
It doesn't connect to Staten Island, so
connect
it's
to
fine.
Staten
As long as
Island.
we
That's
got
right.
them across all the
Exactly.
bridges and
That's
tunnels.
exactly right. Yeah.
All right, guys. So another round of supplemental SNAP benefits is going out to households across Staten Island and New York starting this week. The additional $95 will once again be added alongside the current allotment, even if you're at the maximum level.
And the benefits will be fully posted between this Thursday and Friday, the 27th. Over 2.8 million New Yorkers are enrolled in the SNAP program, making up 14% of the state's population.
That's a lot.
It is. It is quite a lot. Yeah.
I'm glad to see it going up because I have done the experiment of trying to do your groceries on what these folks are given.
Yeah.
And it is,
Almost
to say it's
impossible.
a challenge, I was going to say almost impossible
Yeah,
is probably
yeah.
the best way to describe it. So it's good to see them getting a little bit extra. There probably still needs to be a better way or a
Right.
little more coming.
Yeah.
Because that's hard to feed. Even one per thing, but I think a dozen eggs cost $9 right now.
$9 for a dozen eggs?
Yes.
Wow.
Think about that.
Oh my God.
So they're getting 95 extra dollars. A tenth of it is going to, if they have to buy
Yeah,
a dozen
yeah.
eggs.
Right.
Think about
Wow.
that. It's
Yeah.
insane.
You just don't, again, you just don't realize how expensive even just the basic stuff is, like milk or even honestly
That's-
bread, like you said,
yeah.
eggs. I mean, just water. A lot of folks buy bottled water
Buy
and stuff
bottled
like that.
water, yeah.
So it's
So
just good that they're
It's a
helping out.
stretch to say the very least.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. So the Amazon labor union on Staten Island has won their latest battle in their push to become the company's first unionized warehouse in the country.
And last week, the National Labor Relations Board ruled in favor of the union, disputing the company's accusations of undue influence in the vote to unionize. Amazon is expected to appeal. So this, they're trying to be groundbreakers and around the country for unions for Amazon.
You know what? Something else to watch, and I know, Amazon is one of those things that we all use and enjoy because of its sheer convenience.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I mean, I'm very aware that a lot of these workers say it is a miserable place. So a union, certainly would help that. I know Amazon is strongly against it.
Right.
Their position is, listen, this is meant to be entry-level jobs. We expect you to be here 6-8 months, maybe a year tops, and then move on to some other aspect of your career. But it's just not how the world works anymore either.
Well, I mean, and in some cases, they're looking for, certain protections,
Right.
and
Safety
protections and, just the job security in some areas, depending on what the positions are with Amazon. And, I'd be hard pressed to wonder if you put a survey out, if let's say they charged a surcharge, if it was like 2% on top of whatever you're paying for in Amazon, for the union charge, I highly doubt that anybody's really going to complain.
No, because I think on top of the convenience, I think that what Amazon has done exceptionally well is the delivery and the convenience and the fact that you can order something and get it the same day
Right.
if you needed it.
Yeah.
And so, I think a lot of folks, you're right, to pay an extra 2% on something like that, just to make sure that the guy who delivered it isn't breaking his back, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And again, it's just if you know that money is going to go towards that's the key.
That is the key. And that has to be the guarantee.
That's right. Whatever the fee is, whatever would go towards, to supporting a union. So we'll see. How many things, obviously
how that litigates out.
Yes, exactly. But, I mean, across New York City, I mean, in this area, the Northeast, I mean, how much stuff is unionized? I mean, railways are,
that's huge here.
Tons of stuff. So we'll see how that kind of maybe plays out in some distribution center in the middle of Oklahoma. I don't know,
Exactly.
where the cost of living is a lot less than living on Staten Island or in the Bronx or Brooklyn or whatever.
Exactly.
So, all right. So Mayor Adams recently traveled to El Paso to meet with migrants as they continue to enter the country along the southern border.
Here now to give us some insight on the situation is Renata Castro. She's an immigration attorney and the founding partner of the Castro Legal Group. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Renata.
Thanks for having me. I think that in anticipation of my participation in this show, the cold front from Staten Island has parked over us here in Florida.
I like it. Hey, so Renata, what's your take on the mayor's recent trip to the border?
Well, I think that it's very fair to say that everyone who wants to run for office is going to take a jab at the situation at the border. Mayor Adams is most likely trying to position himself as a presidential hopeful, as have Governor Abbott and Governor Ron DeSantis. It's quite incongruent to hear Mayor Adams talk about New York being full and not being able to accept migrants when the city and the state of New York have been at the forefront in the United States to create an Office of New Americans, helping and actually providing funding for representation of individuals who live in the state and in the city of New York and are looking to become U.S. citizens, for example. Very few, if any other state, does that. So that just does not sing well with, in my opinion, with the longstanding tradition of New York being a melting pot. I think he's just trying to do this for headline grabbing, and it works. We're here discussing the very same visit he had at the border to talk about the subject.
Yeah, and you recently called for lawmakers to make a change to America's immigration policy. What should that look like in your view?
The United States the last time the United States had meaningful immigration legislation changes was in 1996. We still used beepers at that time. Why is that relevant? Because now the United States has access to technology and access to intelligence information and background checks on individuals at the snap of a finger or at the typing of a keyboard. We should be able to grant asylum applications at consulates and embassies of the United States abroad so that individuals didn't have to come to the border. Why is it important? Current U.S. law requires, it doesn't suggest, it doesn't invite, it requires individuals who are looking for asylum protection to come to the U.S. border and avail themselves of asylum protection. So unless you change the law, these individuals coming to the border are not breaking the law. They're following a treatise that the United States signed requiring these individuals to come to the United States in such manner. So I hope that as Mayor Adams visits the border, he also visits with a practicing immigration attorney to understand why we're having the current conditions at the border. I also want to add to the viewer, when we hear about a border crisis and the ever-growing number of individuals crossing the border, what has really changed is not so much the number of border crossers, but the number of individuals who have contact with an immigration official. Why is that relevant? The number of border detentions has risen because now we have more technology and the border is overall safer because of this use of technology. So I think that there's a lot of speculation and really lack of knowledge from our elected officials over how the U.S. immigration system, the legality of it really works. And I actually hope that Mayor Adams will take a lead in that. I can't see Governor DeSantis nor Abbott having any kind of meaningful discussion with practicing immigration attorneys. I think that this is an opportunity for Mayor Adams to do that.
That, Renata, you said something that was so interesting to me that I did not know, that in order to seek asylum in the U.S., you must come to the border. I think that's a very little known fact for a lot of folks that, like you said, I think it's always portrayed that, these people are just kind of flooding in illegally. And you're saying, no, that is the law here in the U.S. They have to get on our dirt before they can ask for asylum.
Yeah. Yes. So it is very hard for someone seeking asylum to enter the United States by plane because you will go through immigration or some kind of pre-vetting by the airline before you board. Mm-hmm. Why? The airline doesn't want to pay a fee if you are sent back to your country during admission. It's a matter of economics. The same thing happens with ships. So when people say, oh, these people need to get in line, well, there is no line. The line is at the border, because the law says so. Now, there is one player in all of this chaos that makes an incredible profit. And those are the two private immigration jail operators, the GEO Group and Civitas. Why? Immigrants seeking asylum are more predominantly low risk migrants, meaning they don't have a criminal history, they don't have any kind of disease, they're overall healthy because they're coming to the United States seeking to protect their lives and to work. So they don't spend a lot of time in jail. In immigration detention, immigration is the only area of civil law in the United States that can place someone in jail. We don't have a debtor's jail anymore. So when you look at these facts, you understand why talking about the border is good business, but not for the American people. You talked about eggs being $9. Think about how many of these farmers throughout the United States are struggling to find reliable help to work at their farms. We are paying the price because there is a shortage of workers to do important jobs in the United States, and migrants can fill that void. We just need to have a Congress and a Senate that is not partisan. There is no United States of Republicans or United States of Democrats. There are United States of America, and these individuals should be doing what they were voted to do, which is vote for legislation that makes sense for the United States and for its people. And that includes immigration reform.
So I just have one little follow-up I want to bring with you. So let me just ask your opinion on this. Let's just say, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, most of the immigration situation is along the southern border. You know, it's not so much Canada north coming down. If they were to set up some, I'm sure there probably is some that's coming in from Canada, but not as much, you know, along the southern border. Let's just say in Mexico, if there was some sort of either, you know, consulates or something officially recognized by the United States government as United States territory, would that maybe help out the situation where some of these folks wanting to come to the United States could still stay in Mexico, but still be on quote unquote U.S. soil if it's recognized by the Congress, and not have this flood that comes in and then having these folks being, you know, shipped off to New York City in a place that, you know, that they don't speak the language, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of Manhattan all of a sudden staying at some hotel in the middle of Times Square? I mean, is that something that could possibly be done?
I don't think these migrants are staying at a hotel in Times Square.
Well, I'm not saying hotel, but there's those shelters that they're sticking folks in that are in vacant hotels and things like that.
Well, the reason why I mentioned the perception of where migrants are going, we have a running joke that if you are an undocumented alien, or if you have a green card, you don't even have the right to be homeless because you don't have access to the benefits that are perceived to be available for undocumented aliens. These individuals, usually when they end up in a place like New York, they have some kind of family connection that is already waiting for them. And they usually arrive today and they're getting ready to work tomorrow. So they will be in Times Square, but they will be working. I don't think the solution is to designate an area in Mexico to house these migrants. The solution is to give American consulates and embassies the ability to vet asylum applications. And it's possible. Look at what Biden has just done with the parole program for Haitians, Cubans, Venezuelans. Instead of people coming to the border, they are coming to the United States with a sponsor, so someone that will be responsible for them, and they enter the country to then pursue some kind of legal pathway to remaining in the country. We have the intelligence, we have the technology. All that is missing is not a place in Mexico for them to stay, is the willingness of both Congress and Senate to get something done and not be postponing it for the next election cycle so that they can use it as a re-election platform.
Renata, you've given us so much good information, so much to think about today. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. Should anybody need your services, where can they go?
CastroLegalGroup.com. I love being here and discussing this important subject. I think the people of New York are going to be very influential because New York has long withstood its history of being a city of migrants. And I think that we should look forward to having a United States immigration policy that works for everybody, including those in New York.
Renata, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, so coming up, how New York birth certificates are changing to accommodate the LGBTQ community.
Plus, a roundup of everything that's happening in sports this week.
And you can always find us on social media. Search for the Staten Island Morning Show on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and click follow.
Nothing mysterious there. These are captions. Open captions are the on-screen display of a movie's dialogue, speakers' names, and sounds. Theaters in New York City are now required to show some of their movies with open captions. To learn more, visit nyc.gov/captions.
This is the place. Hey! Yo! This is my grandson, Mike. It's his 18th birthday.
Man.
Wow! One of the best years of my life.
Well, when I was 18, the ladies used to think I was fine.
Yeah, your grandma, maybe. Oh,
Come on, man.
he's a smart guy, but I thought he could use a little advice today. Start putting away some money.
Call your mother.
And now that you're 18, you need to sign up with the Selective Service System.
Remember Jamie Thomas?
Yeah.
Heard he didn't register and was denied a job with TSA.
There you go.
That's it. Save money, call mom, and register with SSS.
Well, one other thing. Get yourself some better kicks.
Ugliest shoes I've ever seen.
Be the man. Register with the Selective Service System today at sss.gov.
And them socks, my God.
Welcome back to the Staten Island Morning Show. Let's get a look at your weather headlines. And if you have plans for this weekend, Saturday, it's going to be the best day to travel or be outdoors. Temperatures will be in the low 40s across the island, 41 in Stapleton, 42 in New Dorp and Midland Beach, 43 in Tottenville. There'll be another storm system heading in our direction, but the timing still needs to be ironed out. We will keep the chance for showers in the forecast for at least the latter part of the day on Sunday. Highs will be around the mid to upper 40s. Taking a look at the next 7 days, we do have a brief spike in temperatures for tomorrow, a chilly rain for Thursday, and then a few quiet days before our next system around Sunday, Monday. Stay tuned to the local forecast as we get a better idea of the timing over the next few days.
I was going to say, still all in all, pretty good. I mean,
I was going to say, it's still not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And all that nice weather means things move pretty easily.
And certainly, traffic and weather always go together. I have to tell you that. So let's get you over to the maps this morning. The South Shore is fine. Outer Bridge Crossing is good. West Shore Expressway, Korean War Veterans Parkway is fine. Highland Boulevard also moving along very nicely. If you're heading over towards Perth Amboy, maybe doing some shopping here along 287 or out towards Route 1 at Edison by the Woodbridge Center Mall. Menlo Park Mall is good. Turnpike through Carteret is fine. Even the Driscoll Bridge heading south, maybe heading down to the Jersey Shore and enjoy some of this nice weather. But we'll make our way further to the north, and that's where we're starting to see some delays. This is just through the long-term construction. It's more of a lane shift there on the eastbound Staten Island Expressway into Richmond Avenue. Goethals Bridge back to New Jersey. That is moving along well. Same thing with 440 into the Bayonne Bridge. The expressway, after you get past that delay, getting into 440 is wide open all the way out to the Verrazano. The Verrazano still seeing some congestion here, getting off onto the eastbound side of the belt. Earlier, we saw some road work here. It looks like there may have been some roving pothole construction out through Bay Parkway. Inbound Gowanus, we're still very heavy through Industry City, getting across the top of the world into the BQE up to the Brooklyn Bridge. That's kind of the normal drill there. And if you're heading out to Kennedy Airport on the belt, we're fine into Flatbush Avenue, getting all the way out through Cross Bay Boulevard on into Kennedy Airport. So again, things are fine there. Only thing here is the planned boarding change until 3 o'clock today. All the SIR, Staten Island Railway trains from Eltingville to Huguenot board at the St. George bound platform. Just keep that in mind if you just happen to be heading that way here for the afternoon hours. Other than that, everything else seems to be in pretty good shape, Kara.
Sounds good, Don. All right, so the Department of Health has announced that New Yorkers can now select X gender instead of male or female on all state certificates. So the change can be requested by anyone over the age of 17. New Yorkers under that age cutoff can still change their gender designation with a parent's permission. The New York State Department of Health Deputy Commissioner called the move, quote, a historic moment for the LGBTQ plus community. So really interesting. And I think that's, I guess it's more meaningful to the people who identify in that way than I don't know what it does for you in terms of handing your ID to someone.
Correct, right.
But just to have that reflect, how you identify yourself.
I mean, maybe it's partially that, they're having people try to get the right identification for someone who's, maybe they're unsure or whatever, that they hand over something and it says that, X, and it's just kind of an identification thing for everybody else who's maybe not identifying that way around the community.
Right.
Makes it a little bit easier. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So switching gears here, let's turn over to Chris Tsakonas for a look at sports. Chris, good morning.
Thanks so much, guys. A lot to get into when it comes to New York sports, but we have to start with the Giants' first playoff win since their Super Bowl run back in 2012. After beating the Vikings on the road 31-24 on Sunday night, Giants now square off against the Eagles in the divisional round for the third time this season. Giants and Eagles will kick off at 8:15 Saturday night in Philadelphia. So a big one there. Head over to the NBA. Knicks narrowly fell to the Raptors, 123-121 in overtime at the Garden. RJ Barrett led the scoring for New York in the loss with 32 points. Julius Randle picked up a double-double with 21 points and 15 rebounds. And Jalen Brunson stayed hot with 26 points to go with 7 boards. Knicks remain 5 games above 500. They'll host the Wizards next on Wednesday night. As for the Nets, they return to the floor tonight, hitting the road to play the Spurs. A tip-off for that is at 8. Over to the NHL now, where the Rangers took care of the Jackets in a 3-1 win out in Columbus last night. The Islanders fell to the Capitals 4-3 in overtime. That's happening in sports. We'll send it back over to you guys.
Thank you, Chris.
That sounds good. Man, I was so happy to see the Giants win.
Right? I know you're a huge Giants fan. Yeah,
That's
it's a bit of a commanding fashion, if you want to call it that, against Minnesota to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a statement. Daniel Jones really lighting it up.
Yep.
And Barkley really, and that's probably the most that I've seen any kind of fire out of him in a long time. And granted, some injuries and whatever, but, Philadelphia,
I was going to say,
don't
Philly's
know.
I hate to even say it, but
you know what? It's tough. But what the Giants have in their favor is that no one's expecting them to get. They didn't anybody expect them to get this far. So they can.
And
leave
we have
everything
won Super
out.
Bowls based on that.
This is true. That's right. Exactly. So you can leave everything out on the field. You're not going to hold back. There's no tension. There's no nothing. There's no drama with the coach, with Dable. We know he's solid for another year.
Yep.
I mean, there's no question about that. So there's no drama behind that. So
now we just have to watch and see what happens and have some fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Exactly. But you know what? I think it's a bet to a degree. I don't want to say it's a better matchup, but they've obviously seen the Eagles twice already. So it's better than San Francisco, where you haven't seen. I don't even think they have played San Francisco this year, and it's also good for the fans too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Oh yeah,
come on.
I mean, it's the equivalent
who's
of
flying
Subway.
out to San Francisco.
It's a Subway series for football,
Exactly.
basically. I mean, that's
right.
it. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. We are Staten Island Morning Show. I'm Kara DeFalco.
And I'm Don Smith. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.